So hello everybody, my name is Roberta Robbins, and today I'm having a sacred conversation with Sam Black. I've invited Sam to have a conversation with me because Sam, well, first of all, I've met her, I think it's been a couple of years at least now, and I've gotten to know Sam as a coach, as a trainer, as a coach, but also she is a medium, a psychic, she's a healer, she's a wise woman, she's a sacred medicine weaver. She walked through the sacred medicine path last year and has been my coach too, to help guide me through my journey in understanding how my medicine was weaving. So today I thought Sam and I are going to have a conversation, and our topic, our area is mainly going to be about her medicine and magic, and that's in the world of spirit communication, intuition development, mediumship, and a whole bunch of things in between all that that weave together. So Sam, thanks for joining me for our conversation. And can you just say hello, who you are, and even where you are today?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to talk about mediumship and intuition and all of the goodies that go along with the spirit realm. And I'm physically in a snowy day in Niagara Falls, Ontario. And, it occurred to me, Roberta, about 2 weeks ago, I was getting ready for a class I was teaching. I'm physically in the space I've lived the longest in my entire life, which is 3.5 years. So I'm a little bit of a gypsy moving around a bit. So I'm here in Niagara Falls, at least for now. And, I just really love sharing that passion and helping people find their medicine, much like what you do. But I help people as well, just put it all together into a nice package. And I work with a lot with spirit for my own divine intuition and things like that.
Hey Sam, I'm still here. I know you can only see my picture right now.
I know. I was like, where did she go?
Keep talking. I'm gonna come back on. The reason I left is because on my end of the conversation, you were cutting out a lot. And if anybody knows how Zoom and that works, sometimes if we take the video feed, it helps. So am I coming to you nice and clear?
You are now, yeah.
Okay, because it was like you were breaking up quite a bit. And I don't know how it's coming on the other end. Hopefully, magically, something's coming through for us.
I thought the retrograde ended.
It's today, right? But we're still in that shadow energy of it, which is a new term. You and I could talk about what that is all about, the new term of the shadow side. I'm like, are you kidding me? Okay, so side note on that. But in case you guys didn't catch, Sam is coming from Niagara Falls, a snowy day in Niagara Falls. Things cut out, but I'm assuming it was, I work with spirit. You have your gifts and medicine with that. That is one of your big passions, to work with intuition and your mediumship. You are a medium, you are a psychic. We're going to talk about the difference between those two, because that was a big topic Sam and I talked about when I was going through coaching with her, was, well, what is the difference between that? Now, what else was there in there that maybe we missed?
Oh, I'm not sure. I was just kind of talking. So we'll catch it up if we've missed anything.
Perfect.
Essentially, at the end of the day, I'm a teacher. That's what I do. So although working with spirit is my passion, and I do that in my everyday life and when I'm sharing with others, at the end of the day, what I'm really after is helping other people find their medicine and their gifts and learn how to make them shine through using their own intuition. So yeah, it's a lot of what I do.
Perfect. I'm glad we got to put that in there, because that was very solid. Teacher, support, guidance to help people step into their own medicine, their own magic through, like, especially like, what is your strength in your intuition? What is that language for you? And welcoming like the world of spirit, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people will come to me and they'll say, Sam, I want a reading. And, of course, readings are wonderful and I love sharing messages, but the power and the magic isn't really in the reading. It's in learning the intuition so you can tap in for yourself and gain that knowledge and insight for yourself rather than having to seek out a third party to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally agree. You and I have had conversations about this. It's great to give people support and guidance, especially when we're in need, right? When we really are like, I feel a little lost, I need some support and guidance. But what's even more powerful is if people can understand what their own personal power and medicine is and how to do that for themselves, because then they know it. They really know it. And there's a difference there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even sometimes people ask me for past life reading, and I'll say to them, I don't do past life readings. It's not that I can't. I absolutely could tap in and connect and give information, but I'd much prefer to go the route of a past life regression where they're experiencing it for themselves and they're getting the wisdom for themselves. It's just so much more powerful.
It is. Yeah, I totally agree. I had with you one of our sessions, I think it was in maybe May or April or something, where I did more of a guided, like dropped in healing, where I was walking in within a past life of something I was working through.
Yeah.
And I think even that, where you feel and walk into something yourself and someone's just holding the container for you.
Absolutely.
Which is, there's that medicine of just holding a container for someone so they can go in themselves to experience it.
Yeah. It's
So
almost like being the bus driver and the safety harness all at once. We're here to help guide people and take them where they need to go. We're going to hold them safe. We're going to make sure they don't fall, but the experience is all theirs.
Yeah, definitely. So I was going to say, if for some reason, if we either one of us really know that it's jumbling up quite a bit, we'll just go to our pictures. Do you have a picture, Sam, on yours?
I don't know if I do. I don't think so. I think it just has my name.
It has one of the icons. So just for those that are watching this, if you start to see that it goes to my picture, it goes the same, the icon that Zoom gives, know that we're doing that in the sense of probably the signal itself. And I find on snowy or rainy, windy type days, connection, it just kind of wavers in and out. So may Spirit come in and work with us to keep those lines open and clear for our call today, so that we can share this with people and they go, oh, I know what they're talking about. I can hear them. So as I was saying, I wanted to talk about the difference between mediumship and psychic, those two especially, but going into some of those other things like channeling, and what intuition for you, because you do a lot of training, you hold a lot of training circles and courses on how to strengthen and develop that. And for those that are in the sacred medicine path that are watching this and right now, they have a whole component, a whole sacred portal that's dedicated to talking about awakening their intuition. What is their intuition? And also what I refer to as kind of, what's your soul language? Because to me, it's like, it's bigger than this human form that we've come into. It came with us, and we just have to expand more to remember and to work on it. And also it comes along with working with spirit, right? Because it's, opening up to that helps us, because we want to hear spirit. We want to hear the support and guidance that's there for us. So as I described you, I was fine with titles. It's almost seems like it's like it boxes us in, and we're so many things. We're so much. But I do know that you used the titles. One of your couple of titles is psychic medium.
Absolutely.
Right. So in your words, what's the difference for you in that?
I love that you asked this, because so many people don't really understand what the difference is. And it's important that you do understand, especially so you know what type of reading you're wanting to get and that you're getting an authentic reading when you do. So psychic is when we're tapping in to your soul level. That's when, we're connecting with your guides and your soul and your path and your purpose. And I often tell people that it should feel somewhat familiar, even if it hasn't happened yet. It's all about you and your path. And here's the difference for when we're connecting mediumistically. That's when the message comes from spirit. So it comes from their perspective. It's their story. And so it's so important to not change it in any way. And I'll tell people, if they go for a reading, if someone's giving you a mediumship reading and you can validate every little thing they've said, they were not tapping in mediumistically, they were tapping in psychically. And here's why. Because there's no way you could possibly know everything about someone. Look at your partner, look at your parents. You don't know everything in their journey. And chances are, when you have a conversation with someone, they're telling you something new. Sure, you might reminisce and you might talk about some things you have in common, but you're going to... That's generally the idea. All right. I was just checking that the internet went unstable for a minute. So generally we're looking for those things. We're looking for the messages where, yes, we can validate, we've identified grandma's in spirit and she was shorter and she had shorter curly hair and she was a fantastic cook, although she didn't work as a cook. She worked in an office and she passed from the heart. We can check all of those boxes, absolutely. But there should be something in the message that is new to you. And another little key too, little physical things. If someone's really leaning in deep and getting really curious and interested, chances are they're tapping in psychically. Whereas mediumistically, it's coming from either side, above, around. It's not coming from you. So those are a couple of the differences between psychic and mediumship. So psychic's when it's all about you. Mediumship is when we're connecting with spirit and their story. And that's what it's all about.
Oh, okay, that was perfect. That was clear. There's
Good.
no confusion, right? I mean, that was so clean. And there is so much confusion because I think there's confusion because even when we're taught, sometimes there's things that are blurring, mixing it in. So it's almost hard for those that are stepping in to learn to really define what that is.
Absolutely. And Roberta, when people are stepping in to learn, often it's just a natural thing that kind of happens. So for me, I was born as a child with these abilities and it grew over time. There's some people who will get into a tragic accident or a change in life and that's when it happens for them. It's all different ways, but often people stumble into this. It's not something taught. And until only recently were we able to talk about it in a public way. Prior, even 10 years ago, it wasn't something we could really share publicly. So people often don't really know what they're doing. I can tell you one of my coaching students right now, she was practicing readings and I said to her, I said, okay, that was all awesome. And it was psychic. Now let's show the difference. And all we did was turn the chairs around so that she couldn't see me and I was sitting behind her instead of facing her. She gave a wonderful mediumistic reading and got to feel the difference about how spirit comes forward. But she had no idea until that exercise. She just assumed, oh, I'm talking about somebody who's in spirit, so it must be mediumistic. And, when we're working with people, it's so important to be clear where we're getting our information from because we're working with vulnerable people. They're coming to us with pain, with their most treasured possession, their loved ones. And they need to understand whether you're giving them information from their loved one or you're giving them information because of something that you're feeling yourself, which would be your intuition. So that's why I'm just so clear on the difference and why it's so important to know the difference when we're getting a reading.
It is so important. And I know both of us have done a lot of training that has come through Lilydale in your state from different teachers. You've done a lot of stuff with Lisa Williams. And I'm still got on my plate her forensic mediumship.
That one's actually still on my plate too. I haven't done her forensic yet. But,
maybe summer. Maybe
that would be great. We should set that up.
Yeah. Because you guys like, oh, I really want to do that one. But we have worked in different ways, as whether it's been through teachers, through Lily Dale, or other teachers than that along our path, our journey. But like, as you said, sometimes it just comes in, or it starts waking up, and it's not that we had training that woke it up or something like that. It just naturally was starting to get a little louder. The volume started to turn up. Our awareness start to go, oh. And then I think for those of us that have been on this path for a while, in the world of spirit and our own, how are we communicating? How are we receiving? What is our way? We then realize, oh, it's actually been there since we were born. Like, I know you feel that way, and I know myself, I'm like, oh, it's actually been there. And at times, at times I used to say, oh, it was in my 20s, early 20s. I'm like, oh, well, no, I was talking with spirit and doing that since I was a kid. So it's very natural, I think. You know, some people think you have to be gifted or trained or whatever, and it's like, those are there to support and build, but honestly, I believe it's all of us.
And to give us structure on the how to, but the gifts itself are already inside. It's just about awakening and remembering them.
Yeah, before we go into like the intuition part and how people receive, because this is like something you really focus on in your life and teaching people, is those gifts. But I want to talk quickly about evidential mediumship and so English style mediumship. And because I got these terms when I was in Lily Dale. You know, you have your English style and your American kind of style of mediumship. And I, quite a few years ago, I think when I was probably about 30, did the, you know, evidential mediumship with Janet Novak. And that's where you're literally asking spirit, I want proof, I want evidence. And these are the things that people can then do the tick off and go, yes, that I know I can say yes to that. And that is my grandma or my great grandma, and I have like check, or there's something, right? But then there's this other side. So tell me what your thoughts and where you see the difference, because this past summer I did more stuff with Sharon. And you know, it was very different than the evidential. It was like, stop wasting your time with that. It was like spirit here now. It's like speed dating with spirit. It was like crazy. I mean, Sharon's great, but it was so different than taking the time with the evidential and wanting them to like give me stuff and me interpret it in my own way, to the spirit here now, Yeah.
And you know, I want to really stress too, you can get evidential mediumship information like that too. You know, for platform mediumship, definitely my rule of thumb is 3 pieces of validated evidence before I'm giving you a loving message. That's just me. I'm pretty hardcore as far as the evidence goes. And the why behind that is because that's how we show the skeptics of the world that we're actually connecting with their loved ones. You know, I think many of us have seen situations, whether on TV or a live dem or something like that, where, you know, they'll say, oh, you know, I've got a man, I think there's a letter B, and he feels like he might be a grandfather. Do you know what I mean? Well, you got half the audience saying, yeah, grandfather, right? So you really, that evidence is what sets it apart. And especially when we're talking about platform mediumship, when we're in front of an audience, you know, that evidence is what narrows down who we're talking about and who we're talking to as well. Because when you get down, the more evidence, the smaller the category gets. So we can get right to the person who the message is for. And often with mediumship too, we do get piggybackers. So we get more than one spirit at a time, but we can also have message from more than one person in audience at the same time as well. So, you know, this does help us narrow down who's getting the letter. And as John Holland would say, the other ones are getting the postcards. So it's all valid, but the more evidence you have, the more somebody can say, yes, that's my person. That message is for me. And their buy-in is there. Whereas with just a loving message, you really need to build your trust and rapport. So you're still taking the amount of time. You're still taking that time, just in one way you're getting rapport by evidence of spirit, and the other way you're building the trust because they like you as a person and they see you as a trusting person. And if rapport building is something you struggle with, you've lost them. Whether that message is valid or not, they're not listening to you because they're like, oh, anybody could just say that nice thing to me. Whereas the evidence, you can't really challenge some of the stuff that comes through with the evidential mediumship.
Yeah. Build rapport like that. I mean, that's not something typically talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot when it comes to the training about that essence. And it's like, you know, beyond even mediumship, and that everything we do when we're doing one-on-one, especially healing or talking or coaching, you know, if we live with that integrity and the truth, and we know who we are and we do our work, it comes out. But the people that work with us, we're building that so they can see it and feel it. So
Absolutely.
yes, of course, that's going to go in with when we're doing readings for people, and also teaching and training.
Absolutely.
Right?
And, you know, part of the rapport building is about knowing who you are and what you have to offer, so you're able to get sometimes we run into people trying to be just like their mentor, just like someone else. And role modeling is a wonderful technique for learning and growing, but it's you these people want to connect with. So it's so important to shine your light, be your authentic you. That's the best way to build rapport. Because, you know, in this world, people will like you or they won't like you. That's up to them. But the people who like you, they're going to seek you out. And it always works out.
Yeah. And that's who you want to work with anyhow, right? Is people that know that there's alignment. They get you, feel it, and then they're naturally being drawn in, and therefore those are your people.
Absolutely. Build your trip.
Don't try to be something or somebody else. So, okay, already so much important information there. So ways, that's when you were talking about your student that you have, that was like, you said, oh, that's great, that was a great psychic reading, and then it's like, okay, let's turn you around and let's like drop you in and let's do a mediumship reading. And so the difference being, you know, like you said at the beginning, it's spirit coming in with you to talk with you, to tell you, but the stage of how do you understand what that looks like, feels like, sounds like for yourself. Is that intuition, is that development for you to understand yourself, but what your strongest abilities, and how you perceive and how you communicate with spirit and how you tell spirit to communicate with you. Exactly. Right? So that then brings in also, I mean, you use those skills, right, with psychic too, because it's different ways you're feeling in, because it's coming from your strength, but how spirit's going to drop in and start talking to you, you need to be strong and aware what that path is, which is part of your big medicine. So you do trainings, you do workshops, you run them for weekend ones, you run them for so many weeks at a time. You've been doing this for a very long time. So what could you share with those who are watching about what you consider intuition, what that's about, and then developing it, and then maybe how your own medicine, how you do that?
Absolutely. Well, the biggest part with intuition is really about learning to trust your own inner Jiminy Cricket, so they say. So we all know the story of Pinocchio, and he gets himself into trouble because he doesn't listen. Well, we do that in our everyday life too. You know, we, for example, get turned down for a job 3 times and our ego says, no, we should have that. So we fight for it, right? And then wonder why things aren't working out. Or relationships. A lot of people come with relationship questions, and you know, it's about that hanging on because their ego wants them to. But when we strip all that stuff away, all that noise away, what's left is a beautiful voice that even if we don't like what it has to say, it's kind and it's loving and it's steering us in the direction of our true path. And that's really all intuition is trusting that inner voice, that kind voice that's trying to steer you on your path and support you and love you. And when we can trust that, it's interesting, all of the things that unfold. Then all of a sudden, you'll notice the signs that are coming to you. You'll hear the names that are being mentioned to you. And you're like, isn't that interesting? That's the third time today I've heard that. And, it just opens up doors we would otherwise have closed because our ego's too busy banging down the doors that don't belong to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So would you say, the first step is definitely trusting, getting to know yourself, widening the mind. So things like daily practice, meditation, those things, connect in to hear and know yourself, to do your healing. All those are very important parts to getting to really, not only, like I said, knowing yourself, but knowing what that is, knowing when you're getting hits from your higher self. Hits as in messages, and knowing that feels good. It feels like love and light, and it's true, and you feel what that resonance is that's happening within you when you connect to that. And then spirit starts connecting with you in different ways, like messages and synchronicities, and that you, like you said, you're hearing that name, you're seeing blah 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 so many times, and then that you're getting that spiritual guidance and message. So would you say that like that in itself is like what you consider like intuition, compared to now stepping into things like how you perceive, what that path is for you to, are you hearing, are you seeing, are you smelling, certain, like our clairvoyance, clairaudience, sentience, like all those ones. Would you say?
And I want to stress it's all of them. There's, thanks to the psychic lines in the 80s, there's this big idea that clairvoyance is the be all and end all. And it's a wonderful, wonderful tool that we have. We all have this ability to see, but we've also got all these other senses that are being ignored. So a really good psychic or medium uses a combination of those senses. They'll get it and they'll feel it, or they'll know it, or they'll smell it, and then they'll validate it with another way. Okay, I got that. Now show me another way. Because if you can give exactly what you're getting, that's a good message. And with the clairvoyance, you have to interpret it. Because everything you see has a different story depending who's looking at it. Go to an art gallery and see how many people have a different idea of what a painting is. So the clairvoyance is wonderful. It's better when it's matched with something else. So wonderful. I'm seeing this farmhouse. I'm seeing the tall grass. Now let me feel or smell or hear something. Okay, now I'm hearing a lady call the name Bob. Does this make sense to you? We've got a farmhouse and this. Then they can say, okay, now I get it. Right? Whereas I could say, I'm seeing a farmhouse. Well, that's great. There's hundreds of farmhouses. And if you've got a skeptic, they may say that. So it's really about joining all of them. And I'd say like the knowing yourself and the intuition, higher self piece, that would be step one. And step two is definitely really getting to know all of your senses and playing with them so that you become comfortable. And the ones you're not as comfortable with, or the ones you don't use as much, those are the ones to practice with the most, because you'll naturally be picking up with the other ones anyhow. I know for me, when I'm picking up psychically, I usually am feeling and seeing are my two go-tos. And it's interesting because mediumistically, it's hearing comes in as my primary. So what I did for the longest time was I say, okay, psychically, I want to hear stuff. Mediumistically, show me stuff. So that I could build up that skill, because that's what it is. They're all skills. And we all have access to all of them. Even blind people can paint beautiful pictures, right? It's about tapping into the right energy and using what we're given. And when we do those things, beautiful things happen.
Oh, and so, in the sacred medicine path, we have a whole portal that we talk about the different ones and them getting to awaken and understand what ones might be theirs, what their stronger gifts are, to maybe the ones that either feel like it's non-existent or just a little bit more weak or not as strong as those really strong ones. And most people notice that they do at least can say, I connect to at least two. Yes. And there's always a top note, I find. a top note one.
Yeah.
And then there's a secondary one. It's almost like a rating in some ways.
It
But
is.
it is like so important to go through that process to understand what the difference is, what that feels like for you. Play. I love how you said play with this.
Play
With
is the
these.
most important part of developing. Here's the why. Play, if you think to a child, we learn the most when the first 7 years of life. It's because we're playing, we're experiencing. Take that inner child perspective and play with what you're getting. The other piece is children are not critical. Children just are, and they're curious. So that way, when you're working with the ego, stuff's going to pop up. And that way you can tear it down and go, okay, cool. What's that all about? Let me play with that for a minute. Why is this popping up for me? What do I have to learn here? And when we can get playful and ask those questions, that's where we grow as people. And the more we grow ourselves, the more we inspire others, and the more we'll attract the right people to come to us too.
Yeah. And you said like as children, we're just being. And that's one of the, I would say, one of the main, there's many, but one of the main things when you're learning how to hear and receive is to get out of your own way, get out of your mind, get out of what thoughts and judgment and all these other things that have built up over the years for us, and kind of quiet, once again, drop into that quiet and just be open to what it's coming in and trusting that, and then a questioning, a gentle, loving questioning, and seeing what else comes in from our experiences. But it's hard as adults for us to play, to be curious, to let it go, to put those judgments and thoughts aside, the monkey mind and that talk, and just kind of open up. And I know we practice that a lot in one of Sharon's class a couple summers ago, with that, closing and opening certain parts of ourselves, or opening up doors, and like there's all these great techniques that can help us with that. So going into that, what is it that you have been doing, Sam, that helps individuals that are wanting to step more deeply into understanding this path? What does your programs, or how are you holding that space as a teacher, but for them to drop into that more?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of different ways. I have some people who come to me for one-on-one coaching. They'd much rather that one-on-one attention to really dive deep. And each week they have different tasks for practicing and playing. And then they come back to me with their questions, and, we progress from there one-on-one. Then I also, and I'll tell you honestly, this is my preference for this, is groups. Because when we can play with each other, that's when we really, really grow, and we nurture those relationships, and we get to be vulnerable, because this brings up real stuff. And the more we can be vulnerable, the more we really are awakening our intuition and accessing everything in our unconscious. So with the groups, I have been doing it weekly sessions, and usually it's 8 to 12 weeks, just depending on the season. And we meet every week, and I always use a closed circle, which means those who come on the first day are it. That's it. We don't accept anybody midway through. And the reason why for that is because I want everybody to feel safe and build a really safe place for them to learn, grow, and explore. And the other way I do groups too is an intensive weekend. So I've got a couple coming up in Niagara Falls. I have an intensive day in Los Angeles, another one coming up in Sudbury, Ontario. So I do teaching all over as well, but definitely in person is often wonderful. In groups is always optimal. And I'm also going to be very soon offering my classes online as well. And again, those will be closed containers. So safe group for you to get to know your group mates, regardless of where you are in the world. And, just to learn, grow, and explore. That's the biggest thing. And sometimes people think, okay, I'm going to come and learn how to give tarot readings. You come away with so much more than that. Whenever you can get together, the group of women, just like the Sacred Medicine Path, you're getting together and you're learning, growing, and being vulnerable together, so that you can all get a higher consciousness. We can all access what we need to in our world, not just for ourselves, but to inspire others. And so that's what it's all about.
That's awesome. Oh, and I was like, what? You're doing online soon? I mean, I mean, in person, like you said, is always fantastic. It's very powerful. And I would say one-on-one's great, right? But when you have a group, it also builds the energy, I would say the power, the magic in that. So when you're learning, for any of you guys are thinking, oh, I'm ready. I want to like start diving more deeply into this. And like Sam has so many options, as you just heard there, that the thing is, if you go into like an intensive weekend or your 8 to 12 week, there's a power. And even online, you can build that power, and it helps you with the messages and your intuition. Like it just kind of boosts the power more than when you're trying it on your own. It's great because we need to practice on our own. But when you're learning, starting off, why not be in a supportive group where, like you said, you can be vulnerable together, you can support each other, you're all on the same page, and you're there to help and boost each other with these gifts. And that you have a group of people that you're able to talk about all those things that come up that may not be able to talk with other people.
I hear that a lot, actually.
Speaking, I don't know how much.
So grateful for their woo-woo friends, because the muggles of the world kind of look at them weird. For now, I believe that's changing. But it's important to have your tribe that you feel safe talking to, because I find even a lot people don't feel safe even talking to their spouses as things are coming up and they're getting messages, because possibly their spouse isn't open. And it really creates an interesting dynamic, but it makes people feel so isolated and alone. And you know, in this 2000 almost 19, there's no reason to be alone anymore. We can all come together. The Inquisition ended a long time ago, and we're getting our power back. So it's time to bring your woo-woo gifts out to the surface and share them with everybody. And the best way to start is by having a supportive group. Whether it's in the sacred medicine path and beyond, you know. And I always say too, go to the groups, go to the intensives, and then do your one-on-one after. So I know Roberta offers wonderful coaching for after the sacred medicine path, and I do the same with my courses too, because then you've got the basis, then you're on a roll, and the one-on-one can help support that. Whereas when people start there, often it's baby steps. So I find that the groups and intensives really ignite everything and get you going. Yeah.
And I find with the sacred medicine path, I mean, the program itself is, 9 months of a group journey together, and they're going through 9 different sacred portals. And one of them, like I said, is all about intuition, working on like, what is that mediumship to you, the abilities, the gifts, knowing yourself, and all the other things. But when we have people, because what the point of the sacred medicine path is for you to go, well, where am I fine tuning? What's my medicine? And Sam has so many wonderful gifts, but her power and her medicine that she's weaving more strongly at this point in her life, because we're always changing, we're always growing. But right now, it's really is about holding that space, teaching, helping people understand about the spirit world and what their gifts are, and the tools, the play that you need to go through. You need to play, you need to practice. So either in group setting, and then your one-on-one homework that you go home and do, and then stuff with the fact that you, just like me, we offer the one-on-one stuff too if you want to go more personally into something. So I always love having guests like you who are like, here is someone that's focusing her power and her medicine in this particular area. And Sam also not only does all those things that you just heard her say about intensive weekends, and you heard that they're all over the place, which is great, it's out there in the world. And then she has her 8 to 12 week long weekly programs, typically down in right now the Niagara Falls area. She's also got an online program that will be launching in the new year.
Yes.
To create a different space, making it more easy, that you don't have to travel out, that you can show up and commit when you're ready, right? Like we know when we feel called to go, yeah, I want to commit to that And she's going to create, obviously, I know Sam, she's going to create this beautiful sacred space for you to drop into that even online.
Yeah.
And then you got the one-on-one with Sam. I mean, so for any of you that are wanting to drop more deeply, Sam's your woman. She is wonderful. Like you've heard me say, I've done one-on-one coaching with Sam. I think it was for a year and a half or so. Yeah. And she's even my go-to. When I'm like, okay, I'm needing something, Sam's my go-to to help me, because obviously as a coach, for someone that myself that's a coach, I want someone that understands my language, that I can talk freely about these things myself, to someone that understands. And so not only has the skills, but there's that intuition, the wisdom that's flowing in that helps and support you too, spiritually too, along with all your other stuff.
Yeah.
So couple more things before we wrap up. One being the question that I wanted to make sure that we ask, for those that are wanting to start right now, they're like, what could I do possibly like myself at home to start like diving into this awareness and these gifts, say before they like stop and may go, okay, I need support, I need to go do a program or something like that. Do you have any advice for them for that?
Things you can do. 2 things to just anybody can do, won't cost them a cent. The first is meditate, even if you're only starting at 5 minutes a day. And guided meditations are absolutely fabulous, but try just sitting with just yourself, 5-10 minutes a day to start. And then follow it up with journaling. And sometimes people get really intimidated by the journaling. There were people will read it and things like this. However, I can tell you that if you don't get it out, it's going to keep circulating in your head, and it's not going to get where it needs to go. But if you can journal out what's coming to you and then just close the book, you can reflect on it later. There's no pressure. It'll be very interesting to open that book up 2 weeks later and see what came to you and what came forward. And then when you get comfortable with those 2 things, start asking yourself random questions. Who's calling before you look at the phone? What time's the mailman coming today? Simple things that don't, it doesn't matter what the answer is, but just to play with yourself and see what comes forward. What is the next color car going to come around that corner? Anything like that. What elevator is going to open? Intuition games like that. None of these things cost a cent. You don't need anyone else to do them. And they're a great place to get started, opening up that intuition and trusting.
Perfect. Love that. Sometimes that journaling, right, can really, people overthink it.
They do.
This is not something you're going to be graded on or anybody's going to read. The grammar does not have to be good. It could be even symbols that you're putting on there. It could be messy as, what you're writing. It doesn't matter. Just, we need to have that something that comes out. Like you said, you got to get it out and let it flow. And then you said, and then the reflection, like you can put it aside, but then it's important that later on you reflect a bit, and because you'll be like, wow, that came through. Holy cow, look at that message that came, and you didn't see it at that point. But
here's the other fun thing too, Roberta. If the message is coming to you psychically, you can tap back in. However, often with mediumistic messages, once you give them, they're gone. So once you write them in that notebook, you're gonna be like, wow, I wrote that? Like, where did I get that information from? And it's a really fun way of figuring out, are you getting your messages mediumistically or psychically?
Yeah, that's a great point, because I definitely know I've gone back over the years to things I think, holy, was that me? Is this my journal? Did I write that? Because it's like, you don't remember it, and it was just so clean and so wise and so pure, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And then I would say that when I'm doing healing or shamanism stuff, like healing and training, and that when I'm working with spirit and I'm in the other realms, stuff that comes through and it's happening, when I come back in, you forget, right? This is like, when spirit's working with you directly, giving you stuff, and you've stepped outside of your own stuff, and we didn't even get to talk about this. Maybe this will be another conversation. Maybe part
Absolutely.
2, because the ladies are actually, for the program, are just about to start about spirit guides and that. I think we maybe could have another conversation about spirit and how you know to trust who you're talking with.
Yeah.
So, if you're up for that, that would be a great
Absolutely. I'd love
conversation.
to.
And then people can play those together because they go hand in hand. And so anyhow, when you're working with the team, your tribe that are loving, compassionate spirits that you know and trust and have built that rapport with, because that's the whole other side. So Sam and I will do another conversation about that. And but it's good to know the difference between how it's coming in. And so journaling is great. And then all those questions you just said, it could be simple. What car is going to come around? What color? Who's calling? I love, starting to say, start asking for some messages and signs. I love signs and messages. Or even the radio. I'm needing some guidance on such and such. And the next song that you turn on the radio, and that song is like the perfect lyric of what your answer and message is.
Absolutely.
There's so many ways, right, that we can start working on these things by ourselves. And you never stop, even when you are doing this work and you're teaching and holding this, you never stop practicing and doing these things. It's an on.
And we never know everything. So even the most experienced teacher doesn't know everything. I know a tiny, tiny little amount, really. And some people think, oh, Sam is the expert. She knows everything. And I certainly have played a lot. So I have a lot of wisdom. But the reality is that this much. I have so much more to learn. And the best teachers are those lifelong learners, because we know we're never finished. There's so much more to learn. As soon as we're done learning, there's not really a whole lot of point. The fun ends, and I'm not ready for the fun to end.
Exactly. I know. There is so much out there. And I mean, there's only so much we can get in this physical world. Why not expand into the other, beyond the veil, and all the wisdom that is there for us? So as we wrap up for our call, part 1, or it might be the part 2 of the 3, who knows? Did you hear that? I said 3. I don't even know where that came from. But as we wrap up today, I will be adding all your contact information to this video. But for now, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
So you can always reach me on my Facebook page, Sam Black Psychic Medium. Every Monday we do Monday Intuition, which everybody loves, and all my events are posted there. And finally, my new radio show, Soulful Connections with Sam Black, is launching December 12th. Finally, I've had to postpone it a couple times, but I'm so excited to get back on air. So that's another great way to reach me.
Yay! Sam has had it was like blog radio. That's still using blog radio.
Yeah, it'll be with Blog Talk still again. My last show, Grounded Roots with Sam Black's on there still and on iTunes. And then this radio show will be as well.
Yay! I'm so excited. So lots of great things coming up for Sam too. And those, it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, Sam's going to be like different parts in Ontario. She's going down to LA. Like I just heard that. I'm like, she's going to be down in LA. So she's around for different intensives, and definitely if you want to like sink in quickly and deeply, check those out. I will add all of our other details with this video at the end, so that if you want to follow her, Facebook, right? Sam, do you have a social media, Instagram
I do.
Following?
And Instagram, Sam Black Psychic Medium as well. So it's easy to find. Website, samblack.ca.
There we go.
Yeah.
So we'll add all that. So thank you so much for joining me in this conversation, having this conversation with me, and that I know those that have felt called to watch this, to listen to this, they have gotten so much already. And I'm excited to know that we're going to do a conversation about the spirit world itself and guides, because it's so important. And it's so funny because the ladies in my program are about to drop into that one. I thought, I don't have a conversation yet for them. Apparently I do now. It will be happening. All right. Well, thank you everybody that has joined us. You know, you can follow me at robertarobbins.com or Instagram, Roberta_Robbins. And you can find me on Facebook too. Love the social media. Love the website stuff. So there's always tons of ways to get a hold of me and Sam. So have a beautiful day. And to our next time, we have our next sacred conversation.